In to the Social Butterfly. Michael, how are you?
Well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, you're well even. I like it when you're fantastic. Today, I'm going to dive straight into it, right? How do we shine online as a lawyer, Michael, while still keeping confidentiality and privilege? That's what I want to talk about today. We're going to have a bit of a chat around marketing plans generally for legal firms and what they can be looking at an overall top level down. And then we can narrow in a little bit more on the online world because it's quite a big conversation. It's where we generally sit, but let's not forget about the rest of the world. So, how to shine online as a lawyer while still keeping confidentiality and privilege of clients. That's our topic for today. Before we get started, I'm Katrina from Butterfly Media, and you are on the Social Butterfly, where we go live each week unpacking all sorts of things around marketing, business, sales, strategy, development, and more. And I'm always joined by Michael Clift from Adventure Cultivation Coaching, who is getting you or helping you master chaos in your business, amongst other things. He's a confidant and a support to me, and I love having him here as we unpack all sorts of things around this space. Hi, Michael. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
Doing better. I only ever ask you those. Great to have you here. I know that you have probably worked with lawyers. I know you work a lot with the professional space, professional services. The legal world is quite an interesting world when it comes to stepping out and promoting it. Literally, because by its very definition, it is all about confidentiality and all about privilege and all about, keeping things, pretty close to your chest. So it can be an interesting subject about, or a conversation about how to step out and start promoting that. So how do you sort of think in lines of this, Michael, around lawyers and them stepping out into a marketing space or creating a marketing plan for their firm?
So having a plan, always awesome. It's really based on what outcomes we want to achieve. Like that's where we want to get back to the root of what we're doing before we start. And so from a law firm, obviously they would know what kind of law they're doing. We probably need to establish what we're talking about at some point. I actually haven't worked with a law firm, but I do work with professionals that can't just go and talk about their client successes because it's all confidential, and there's ways and means that we can work around that.
Okay, well, this helps a little bit. I've worked with some of the biggest and the smallest legal firms in the world. So I know what a massive international firm has to deal with when it comes to their marketing and their conversation and how they represent themselves out there. I've actually worked with one of the biggest ones as it merged to become a hyper massive legal firm across the globe. And I've also worked with the smallest ones. So I completely understand confidentiality, privilege, and it's a little bit the professionalism and how it could be a little bit nerve-wracking to stand out in front of people and say, hey, look at me. So with that in mind, let's go. Let's have a marketing plan around this.
Okay. All right. You want me to kick off? Is that what we're going? All right, cool. So the way I want to preface it is like with anything, this is how we would do it, and this is how we get people sorted out, right? Like there's different ways people can do different things. When I'm talking marketing, we want to have a plan. Marketing, for anyone that's not sure, is we're just focused on attracting the right people for you while repelling the people that aren't right for you. There's a few things that, let's call it 5 things we really want to know aside from the outcome. So the outcome is what you want to achieve, but to get there, we want to know who are we working with, from they have the solution, the outcome, and why are we their best option.
So start again, make that a little bit slower. So who we serve.
Yeah, so who's that person? And ideally, we want to know as much possible details as we
can. PhD.
That's going to because that's how we're going to be able to talk to them, because we want to speak to them in their language and all that good jazz. The problem that they have, the solution that we provide for the problem, the outcome that they get, and why we're their best option to solve that.
So that's the top level or the first part of the marketing plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to identify that. then knowing the who is really important, because we actually want to know the buyer type that they are, so we understand how they buy. As a general rule, for assertive, ambient, expressive, and analytic, without going into too much details because we'll derail very quickly. And then we want to set up the buyer's journey. And that's really important, because not everybody is, from a legal point of view, not everyone has a problem that they need to come and see a lawyer right now. But when they do, they're probably just going to go find the closest lawyer, unless you've built a relationship with them.
And it's usually right now when the time comes. And it's like, now I need a lawyer. Right? So, even if we're talking civil or criminal, depending on where it's at, criminal's generally pretty instant. You might need a lawyer fairly quickly. With the civil side, you could be in the family space where you're going through a separation, and then that's starting to happen, and it's like, okay, I need to speak to a lawyer, and it's a very nerve-wracking time. So how do you even begin to find the appropriate lawyer to help you through a separation or a divorce? Or it could be, someone's passed away, and that's again another emotional time. So how do you find the right person for that?
And if you've built trust with someone and they're comfortable talking to you and they go, oh, yeah, that person's going to look after me and help me out, that's going to get them in front of you really quickly. But it's, we've also got from a business sense, sometimes people don't know what they know. Like there's definitely a lot of reasons. Like even, for example, like when I first got into business and I was doing guarantees, and I got my my guarantee paperwork so that I can give someone a signed copy that's legal, right? That, like, I had to go find a commercial lawyer to do that.
Yes.
And I just went, oh, I need one. Got on Google and like looked for one, right? Like there wasn't, and I had to talk to them about what that was about, what that looked like, what that felt like, because they wasn't any marketing that I had come across that was pointing me in that direction.
Do you know what's super interesting about that? When I had to write my terms and conditions for my company, I had previously in the past gone online and bought some terms and conditions offline in the early stages of another business, right? Of a very small business. So I could do that, right? But then as I was stepping up and, into bigger areas, I wanted a professional to go over it, not just an internet bought thing, to make sure that when I went out to market, it was standing up. So there's that competition, if you like, that's out there for lawyers. They can buy it off the internet, buy a pack. Or then I literally was looking around. I'm a member of a business group, as we know. So obviously I was lucky enough to have some people to go to, but there's that, right? And so they already had my trust because I already knew that they'd be great at it.
And this is where it comes in from. When we've come into that part, we've just come in right at the back end of the buyer's journey with it. Like, we just need something right now. But if you haven't built the relationship beforehand, like if I had seen someone that had been talking about the things that you need within the business, this is what it looks like, these are the things that we do, they would have just been the first person that I went to, because they've already established trust with me. I'd be like, hey, I need this.
So let's step it back. So the marketing plan then is understanding the customer, who they are, how we fit in, what our solution is, why we're the best option. And then we go about using marketing materials and platforms and avenues to hit the customer or the buyer at certain stages of the journey. Shall we talk about that?
So from that point of view, and like knowing who is important to know where you should be.
Mm-hmm.
So like let's say in Australia and America, Europe, like it's almost a given that most people are online at this point using some form of social media platform. So knowing who your person is and what they need is going to determine where they are on platforms. And even from the point of view of, we may need to do multiple platforms for different stages of the market. So think of the buyer's journey as a curve. We have 3 little places. And the first one is awareness. And that's where they're starting to realize that they have a problem. And then we've got consideration. So they're coming into like they have a problem. They're moving along to, okay, I have this problem. What is the solution that I need, and what is the best fit for me? And then as they're coming down, they're working towards making a decision. And down here is where they make the decision, or their purchase, or we close them, or whatever we want to call that, right? That's where, so for us, a lot of the time what businesses do is their marketing is just focused here. It's just you buy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the problem with that is the numbers are, it's like, let's just call it 1 to 5%. Potentially less than 5%, but 1 to 5% of people are ready to buy now. So if you just market there, 95% of your potential market is gone straight away.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to have a plan. We want to nurture people along the way. We want to create awareness. We want to build ourselves up within that space so that we can not just get more money, but have ongoing leads consistently so we can build our business, help more people, get the outcome that we want to have.
All right, love that. So how are we going to go about doing that? We've got a 5-step simple plan.
Yeah.
Of course we have.
I'm going to hand over to you because we're going to talk about how you do that with socials, right?
We can talk about how we do it with socials only because a full marketing plan, which, we could talk about, might not be necessary for everybody all the time. There's things like outdoor, which is billboards, and bus station, bus stop signs, which if you want to be number one in your local area, by all means, pop your face on a bus and let that drive around town sharing who you are. That's an incredible marketing strategy if it's cost effective, and you will be known everywhere. So there is that option. Again, bus stops, billboards. There's one in my town I can think of right now as I drive in, and there's always, I always read the sign driving in, and it's always different. I'm like, there's wonder who's there today, right? So that's your outdoor stuff, and by all means, it's worth it. There's the print media, excuse me, which you need, right? You need even in this digital world, we need flyers, brochures, things that are tangible that people can take with them and read and have at home for while they're thinking about what's going on in their world. And then there's the digital space, which amplifies and helps all of that in-person stuff for free, for want of a better word, right? For free, or for, we spend with time or we spend with money.
Depends what element you are, right? If you're doing it for yourself, it doesn't cost you money, it costs you time.
Yeah.
If you're getting someone else to do it, it costs you money.
Yeah. And there's definitely ways to do it so that it gets results. So let's talk about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about that. All right.
And I think and just quickly touching on it, I think the other offline thing is, and like it can be online as well, but like maybe in-person networking is really quite valuable. But in the sense of, and like not in the sense of you go to all these events, and like I think if you've got an online strategy and you're doing in-person marketing or like in-person networking, the key to that is how do we take those people and get them online?
Yeah, or vice versa. I love your in-person stuff. You actually have a map here where you're looking at in-person networking, right? So that's at least going to networking events, possibly within the legal fraternity or the legal world, but most probably not. Most probably within business, or depending on what the world is that you're in. So if you're a commercial lawyer, then you'd be in networking with other businesses. If you're a family or in that space, there's many groups you can join that are in the local community that you can start to network into. So obviously in the local community, getting your visibility, your face out and about is crucial to creating trust. But what we tend to do is we used to give them a business card, whereas now we say, go hang out on my LinkedIn or go hang out on my Facebook, get to know me a little bit more. I was literally talking to someone last night who had referred me to someone, and they said, I'll just go check her out on socials first, and then I'll get in contact. Like, it's literally the process nowadays. So that's how important social media is, or online marketing. It's incredible. So the networking, you when I first met you, you used to do it too, Michael. It was fantastic. You'd be like, go to my LinkedIn, go to my LinkedIn, go to my LinkedIn.
I still do it.
And then, yeah,
Like I went to an event last night and I did it to, I don't know, like 15 people.
yeah. And it's
So,
not just a matter of going to my LinkedIn. Okay, great, you're there. It's like, okay, now let's have some fun on LinkedIn, right? And you create some content. So
just to answer a question that we've got that's come through from Facebook, and I'm just trying to work out where it's come from. Is what about smaller towns that don't have population density or infrastructure? Do you find digital or physical marketing to be more effective?
Such a good question. And what?
It depends.
So
it depends if you're only selling in town or you're selling outside of the town. And in this world, it depends on the people that you are servicing and where they're spending their time as
well. Where they hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. So if, let's say, every single person in the town read a certain local like newspaper or something like that, and you know that they do, that's probably a really good place to market, as long as it's cost effective. If you're servicing people outside of that town, I'd be encouraging you to go online. One thing we need to remember about online, which is probably a really good point to bring up for everything that we're about to talk about, is online is about convenience, right? So if you aren't showing up online, and it's really convenient for people to be online, then if you're not there, you almost don't exist. And if other people are there, they do exist. So it depends if you're an only. It's probably not a standalone question.
I find it fascinating. I was in a small town when I first started digital marketing per se for a business. And the town itself, like the people on the extended outer areas of the town didn't have the internet, right? So it was useless, me trying to market on Facebook when they struggled to get the internet. They read the notice board on the local supermarket when they came to town to get their information. So that was where I started. And then I used the internet for outer areas or the people that did receive the internet to start to market to. And then they would tell people that didn't get it, you should check out, Kat for what she's doing over here. So it's, yes, there's a place for it, but as you say, go where the people are.
Yeah. It's why it's a strat. It's why we have like a marketing plan and like an overall strategy as opposed to just relying on a specific tactic.
Yeah, that's great. That leans straight back into the top part of the strategy, right? Well, actually, and it leans into my first question that I would be asking anybody right now, regardless of where you're going to land, is the first thing to do for any marketing plan is, what do you want? Literally, what do you want in the next 90 days? I love the 90-day cycle. You taught me that, Michael. I'm always on the 12-month cycle. Then you broke it down. Let's do it in 90 days, right? So what's your overall 12-month goal in revenue? And also, what does the clients look like, right? Who are you trying to attract? Who do you want to work with? What matters do you want to work on? Is it just wills, or are you moving into other areas? Like, what is it that you want to achieve in 12 months? What do you want to achieve in the next 90 days? That will tell you where to go. That will literally tell you where to go. So if it means you've got to put pins on boards, right, and go and make sure that it doesn't fall off so that people will see you in the next 90 days and that's how they get their information, then that's what you do. So it's literally that. What do you want in the next 90 days? And then that will tell you everything you need to do to go and get it. Fair enough?
Yeah.
That would be my first port of call, because it gives you all the answers. From there, the second one is take an audit. It sounds unsexy, but it's absolutely awesome for the data and just knowing what you've been up to and to draw a line in the sand. So literally, what have you been doing lately? Have you put the pin on the board? Have you done that recently and had people read the board and been contacted? Have you been posting to socials? Have you done network marketing? Have you been out in the areas that you need to be? And if you haven't, it's great. It's like, great. Okay, I haven't been doing that. Now I'm going to go start it. Here's my line in the sand. Now I'm going to go start a few things. And as we always talk about, find out what works. Right? It's literally like, you're going to go, as I always say to you, you're going to go wobble over here for a bit and see how this turns up. And then, you say to me, you're doing really well. I'm like, I feel a bit wobbly. And that's how you're going to feel when you first start off, right? It's like, let's go try these things to see what works. So an audit will tell you, what you have been doing to align in the
I don't know what that was.
What's that?
So, someone was really excited about what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was excited about audits. Who would have thought? All right. So, you think that that's a place to sort of land, Michael? Anything to say on that?
Yeah, absolutely. You need to know where you're at so that you can work out where you're going.
If you are posting online, we normally take a look at how many posts you've made in the last month, how many followers you've got, and how engaged they are. And not for follower count, it's literally how many people are in there that can see you. Do we need to get more eyes on the prize because those ones aren't looking anymore or they've seen everything? It's the only reason you want more followers. A lot of people say, I want to get more followers, and it's literally just to have new eyes on you because the old ones have seen things. That's what we're doing it for. So how many followers have you got? How engaged are they? And how often are you posting would be what we would be looking at on the online world, and where. So those sorts of audits are pretty cool. And then we go into planning after that, which is the next stage. So I'm sort of looking between a couple of notes here because I've got mine, and Michael, you were talking a little bit about the whole trust building, which is what the online world does. And so does the in-person world, right? You can't get trust any quicker than shaking someone's hand and looking them in the eye. Right? Like that's where it's at. And then you send them to the online world. So where do we want to be in the next 90 days? What have we been doing for the last 90 days? What are we going to do for the next 90 days? So this is our plan, our posting with purpose plan. We commit to showing up a certain number of times somewhere every week for the next 90 days. So whether it's, I'm going to go to the networking meeting for the next 90, for the next 12 weeks. And of that, go and hang out with some people from there, a certain number. Or I'm going to post 3 times a week on social media, or I'm going to put that pin up on the board and make sure that it's there every day so that it doesn't fall off and everyone's reading it. I'm going to do something for the next 90 days and measure it. Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. You want to say anything else, or I'm just going to keep rolling?
You keep rolling.
All right. So when it comes to the online world, we would be posting with purpose. We'd be posting 3 times a week minimum to start to warm up the algorithm. Get you used to creating what we call top of funnel content, which I'll talk about in a second, and start to build a bit of an awareness around you online. So that would be something that a lawyer could easily commit to once they've got the hang of it and understand how to start to present themselves online in a really nice way. So posting with purpose 3 times a week. The way we do it is, as I've just said, with top of funnel content, and that is stories and experience. So education and stories, or experience, anecdotes, insights, and experience and your own stories. So literally, I made a post about this on LinkedIn the other day. If I was a family lawyer, how would I show up on LinkedIn over the coming weeks for the next 5 posts? And it was literally the first one. How I got into family law, that would be the first one. And it's not what you expected. We'd start to lean into why you got into that space.
So I have a thought.
Yeah.
As a lawyer, you're probably not on social media trying to drop a sales post.
No, you're generally on there sharing the latest case study or the latest industry, things that are happening in the industry, or the latest judgment that's happened. It's that I see.
Yeah, so working with other service industries, similar sort of, we don't want to talk about what's going on. Obviously, we don't want to be like, come see, like no one necessarily wants to come see a lawyer, right? If that makes sense. Like they don't want to be like, and that's not entirely true, because there are things that you want to go see a lawyer for and you actually want to go get it sorted out, right? But like you don't want to be the person that's like, oh, when you're going through this tough divorce and stuff like that, just come see me. I've only got 5 spots available for divorcees. It's not like that's not the message that we want to put out there, right? So and I may be skipping ahead, but this is what's going through my head right now, is getting out there and really talking about the chat. Like, I think the stories is almost the most powerful thing that you can do in that situation, because social media, we can still use that as a tool to close clients in that kind of environment, but you're not out there dropping a sales post or whatever. What you're doing is you're creating that environment where you're setting people up so that they can see themselves in that situation and go, oh, I need that person to help me out, right? So firstly, you've kind of got the two elements of educating people and then really like, this is what happens, this is what people are experiencing, this is what they feel. We'll talk about this person we're just going to call Freddie, and this is what Freddie's feeling, and this is what's happened, this is how we can help them out, and then we need somewhere for them to go.
So then you're
anyway, I probably started railroading things. That's why I stopped.
You actually gave me time to think, because I was just thinking about what I see lawyers posting and how they're communicating, and a lot of their content is for each other more so than for their client. So there's a lot to know in the legal world and a lot to keep up with as precedents come down and laws change and cases are decided on, and that changes the game for depending on where you're sitting. So they'll post. I can see that barrister that I know has literally just made a post recently on a new, judgment that's just come down. And I'm like, yep. So everyone in the legal world will appreciate that post, but the client might not. Having said that, in that world they might, because it was to do with that.
So here's a relevant one that I'm thinking of right now that I would be like, this is how I would talk to it. So they're pushing through in Parliament for you can't contact employees outside of hours.
Oh, lucky you told me that. Does it matter if you're global?
Let's talk about that stuff off air. From that particular point of view, right? When you've got something like that, and that comes in, so if business owners are your target market, it's like, hey guys, here's something to be really mindful of. This has just passed through. So what's going to come through soon is that when we're communicating to our teams, we've got to be very mindful about the times that we're sending them through. That, like, if you have a thought at 11 o'clock at night, write that down, and then we share it with the team. Like, we don't want to be, we've got to be careful of the expectation. And it's not necessarily that, like, got to be careful forms of communication, but if they decide to ignore you, you can't get upset about it, right?
Yeah. So new things are coming through.
And obviously a lawyer is going to explain it, like, because this is pretty new. I haven't had a good look through yet. I've just seen some stuff, right? So, like, a lawyer is going to explain that better than I am, but you can just, like, it's them then taking it and putting it in layman's terms and going, hey, have any concerns about that? Feel free to reach out, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that's really valuable for business owners, because they're like, I did not know that was happening. I need to know more about that because I've got 10 employees and I'm going to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, exactly. And now I don't feel scared to go and find out about it. It's not going to throw a spanner in my works because I'm a super busy, boss that just doesn't need this next thing.
And that's you just showing up, being helpful and creating an environment where someone can come to you if they would like more help.
Yeah. So that's your education, types of content?
Yeah.
I love that. The stories ones are crucial. No stories, no sales. Talking about how you got into the profession, what's happening in the profession, how you helped somebody this week, what you're doing right now, what you're working on in the future, what you love about it. All of those things are crucial. So crucial. So, yeah, stories and expertise before sales. There's always a space on. I always leave Fridays for sales because who doesn't love a bargain on Fridays? And we always sort of say, hey, we offer a 15-minute discovery call. Give us a call, right? But you can word it in such a way that it's very inviting.
Yeah.
But that would be the plan. And even in real life, you can have those sorts of ideals when you're out in networking spaces. If you get an opportunity to speak, or if you're at even on the pin board, you could even pop on there, did you know this week that this legislation's come out? Business owners, contact me if you want to know more. That'd be super cool to put on the pin board in a small town. So that's number 3. So we've got, first up, where are we headed in the next 90 days? Number 2, what have we been doing for the last 90 days? Number 3, what are we going to do for the next 90 days, right? And then number 4 is all about personifying your brand, particularly in a very conservative So what I'm looking for, privileged space, as in, you've got to keep confidentiality and privilege very close to your chest. So it's hard to know how to step out. And, some of the executives and lawyers and top end people that I speak with are a bit worried about stepping out of line. They're kind of like, it's a bit narcissistic, and who the hell wants to look at me, right? Because it feels like being online is all about look at me, look at me. And most of these people that I speak with are trying to help others and don't really want the attention or think it's a bit attention-y rather than a sales tool or a promotional tool. So if we can flip the script on what social media is and turn it around to it being a marketing tool, just like any other tool you use, stepping out as you, the person behind the brand, will be the thing that will help people knock on your door even more. And ultimately, that thing that you're doing it for, which is to help people have more impact, create a better world for your clients, will only come about by them knowing who you are. So personifying the brand with your stories. And again, everyone says to me, why is my story important? Why does anybody want to hear what I have to say? And they do. You and I talk about this all the time. They can see themselves in the stories that you're sharing. So how I helped a client this week. This is the thing I achieved for them. This is some of the concerns. And it's not naming the client. It's just naming the story around it. Michael?
I got a few things out of this. The first one is, if you're concerned about how you'll look, people worrying about, you being caught up in you, how much do you really want to help people?
Yeah.
You need to make it about them.
Yeah.
If it's about them, show up and do the thing.
Yeah.
If it's about you and you feel uncomfortable, don't do it, but you're not going to get where you want to go if you genuinely want to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. So stepping that into the real world, and going to these meetings or putting the notice on the pin board or doing online is all about, it's all the same thing. It's all different versions of the same thing, isn't it? It's just this online world seems like, it can seem, to be frank, it can seem like a bunch of posers doing crazy dances, and who wants to be a part of that, right? But it's actually not. It's a very, very valuable tool.
A thing that we forget in business, and it's across every business, right? So is that, what are we willing to sacrifice to get the outcome that we want? Like we're very focused on, these are the things that we're going to do. We don't talk about the things that we're going to give up so that we can get there.
Yeah.
And you go online, you start giving up privacy.
Yes.
Right? You see, you have to you give up comfortability by being online.
Until it's comfortable. It actually hasn't.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone's 100% comfortable online.
You get better at it. It gets easier. Yeah, but it's funny. And when we talk privacy, we're not talking about the privacy that you sign up to as a lawyer. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about
no, no, no.
You're the privacy, of you. Ultimately,
you don't get to be a person that sits behind closed doors and just signs document and talks to someone that comes into your four walls. Right? You're putting yourself out there, so it does mean that you walk down the street and someone might ask you a question.
Yeah,
because they know who you are, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which sometimes isn't always going to be comfortable, because you don't necessarily, if you're walking with your kid, you don't necessarily want to be asked those questions. And especially if you're in a local town, right? Or it doesn't even need to be a local town. It's just a small, just in community. If you're in a local area and people see you, and they're going to go ask you.
It's like the doctor that goes to the dinner party, isn't it?
Yeah. But yes, exactly. But it's really about, what do you want to achieve, right? And what you're willing to do. And that, I'm gonna have to come back to the next thing, because I've lost what I was thinking about.
It's all right.
Really got focused on that. Be prepared to sacrifice to get what you want.
That's a great conversation, I think, for a particular podcast. I think it's all about what you give up to do the business that you're in.
I've got back what I was going to talk about today. Awesome. If you think about lawyers, right? We're talking about lawyers. They can generate high dollars per hour. So Would I suggest that they need to be involved in the process? Yes. Would I suggest that they should probably go learn social media totally for themselves? Probably not.
No.
Right? Like for transparency, unless you have the team and you're becoming the face of the business, like I wouldn't do it
No.
because it's like there needs to be a purpose. And if you plan in the future to continue to be the face of the business, yes, it's worth investing the time. But if you've got a small team and you need to be like you charge $500+ an hour and you're out there doing the thing, I absolutely would be encouraging you to get support to do the social media stuff. Right?
Again, it's the goal, isn't it? If you want to build the business, build the practice, get some more lawyers in, be able to serve in different areas, by all means, there needs to be a face of the business that shines a light back on it. And the CEO, the principal, the owner of the business, of the legal firm, is that person. That's the one that's got the authority in the company, generally speaking, the one that people will listen to, the one that can command attention because I've built the business. It's my business. Let me shine a light back on it. So yeah, that's the whole point of people stepping out.
So just before we move on quickly, I just wanted to touch on, because we keep talking about stories, but I really want to touch on how do we do that without confidentiality, privacy, any of that kind of stuff being, aired when it shouldn't be aired, right?
Yeah.
Is that all right? Can I roll into that?
Yeah, by all means, go for it.
Yeah. And I know you're all over this, but I'm happy for you. Yeah. All right. So how working with people, we've done it in the past, and I say we, as in both of us, is you set up the fictional people that are in that scenario, because it's not important to talk about, like, it really helps if you can talk about a real person and they back it up, but you're going to have these situations with real people anyway, but you can't talk about those real people. So we talk about scenarios, obviously, that aren't happening right now, that someone can go to see what's happening in court right now. Like, we don't want that to happen because that is not good. But we create the fictional people, but we talk about real problems that people experience, that they're experiencing every day. Now, let's say I'm going to use wills because this is going to be an easy one for me to do, right? Based off an experience that we've just had previously with someone. So if we're talking about wills, without a will, you have no control, or just something along the lines of without a will in place, you're leaving your family to suffer, or however we put that, right? And here's why. Joe was a business owner. Joe set up as a sole trader, so probably didn't have it set up right, didn't have a will in place, didn't have superannuation, didn't have these things set up properly. Joe passed away. Next day, no one could touch any money in any of the bank accounts for the business. He was the only person that could do that. They then have to wait for probate before they could do anything. And there's no money there. The partner wasn't working, in a ton of pain.
Yep.
All of that could have been solved with a will. So we talk about the pain points that has happened with Joe. And then we talk about, okay, so here's what we do to help people to ensure they have a will, and it's regularly updated to ensure that that stuff's all covered. It's simple. We just go boom, boom, boom. This is all it takes, everything like that. If you or someone you know doesn't have a will, please send them in to us, because we never want anyone else to experience that.
Perfect. I love it. It's a beautiful place.
Right? And I know someone that the amount of stuff that they've had to go through, and like the person that worked in the business had to, horrible for them. Lovely guy, amazing, super loved, everything like that, just didn't take the steps.
Yep. And there's that's actually, that part is the key. So you can actually lean into who he was as a person It wasn't his fault that he got it wrong. Super lovely guy, so busy doing all this other stuff over here, just didn't take these steps, which is so common with the people I work with.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
didn't understand the importance of it, and also we all have this preconception that we're going to live until we're like 85.
You had me at 100 last week.
Yeah, we were talking about 100 last week, right? Like, so that's what we believe. That is not necessarily true. So we need to be prepared so that the people that are left behind are looked after.
That's actually a really beautiful way that a lawyer could come in and start those sorts of posts or those sorts of communications anywhere. I love that. We all think we're going to live forever. It's not necessarily the case. Let's get prepared. And then this is where we start that buyer journey over here rather than over here. You can start to preempt it. So that's a beautiful way to start sharing what you do as a wills and probate.
And we're still talking to fear, right? Because fear is one of the biggest drivers. But we're doing it in such a way as it's not, you have to have a will, you're going to die, this is going to happen. We're talking about genuinely like, this is what we see. We don't want this to happen to anyone else because we can.
Yeah. And that's connecting, that's personifying the brand.
Absolutely. Because you're positioning yourself as, we care about people. That's why we do what we do. And we don't want this to happen to someone else.
All right. So the 4 out of 5 we've covered is, where do we want to be? Where are we now? What are we going to do in the next 90 days to get to where we want to be? We've got our plan. So we're either going to show up somewhere consistently each week. So whether it's online, in person, in the networking space, or whatever works for that particular legal firm. Personifying the brand with stories of what's going on in your world that you have worked with. And I kind of like to change the names out to protect the innocent, but still lean into the personal stories because they land better. So it's literally like, I was working with a client last year and this happened. We were recently working with this client and this happened, right? It just lands better when it's the real thing happening. And then the last one, if you are online, and even if it is in person, now that I think about it this way, is connecting meaningfully for 30 minutes a day. So for me, I always say get online instead of doing the doom scroll on TikTok because, we all never get on TikTok. Instead of doing that, let's sort of, instead of getting on our feed and relaxing at night, let's get on there and start talking to people on our feed, like reaching out and chatting to people for 30 minutes a day online. If you're at a network meeting, by all means, grab some business cards and for 30 minutes, just jump on a call with that person that you've connected with in that meeting afterwards and just see how they're doing, or go out for a coffee or lunch or something like that. Super powerful. So 30-minute connections, if you can do it a day online, or if you can find, an hour a week to reconnect with someone that you've met in person. Unbelievably powerful to grow, whether it's vertically growing with somebody that could be a good partnership for you, or whether it's a client. Super powerful. So there is a foundational marketing plan for lawyers in small and medium-sized legal firms to start to become known in their local community as the go-to, showing up consistently. Have we missed anything?
Not like everything else is just breaking it down. Just checking my notes. Everything else is just breaking it down into like tactics and areas that we can work on. And the one that I would just love to touch on is just your people, right? Like when you're doing a marketing plan for any business, just remember to think about your people as well, because your people are out there marketing your business, whether you know it or not. So where do they fit into it?
So do you mean your clients or just your network?
I was talking employees, but
right, yeah.
I mean, you can talk stakeholders as well, right? Like that's, it's across the board.
Yeah. So the people, everywhere in the company. All right. Well, I hope you got something out of that team. We were talking about how a legal firm could market itself, particularly around its confidentiality and privilege types of conversations that it has, and also just looking at how some legal firms get their business around, say, tenders and that sort of area. That we're talking more around the small to medium size, and how to get them known locally within their town. So it was all about what you have been, where do you want to go in the next 90 days, what you've been doing for the past 90 days, what you're going to do. Here's a system to work each week with, personifying that brand with some stories, and then also connecting meaningfully with the people that you meet. And then, as Michael has said, use the people that you already have in your company or in your business to help with that conversation. So thanks, team. If you've got any questions, by all means, drop them in the usual spots. If you'd like to learn more, let's catch up. And I think we're going to be talking around different industries moving forward. So if you're in an industry that you'd like us to chat about, or in a location like a smaller town or bigger town, or anything around that space, drop it in the comments below so that we can unpack it for you, because it's good fun. It's good fun to make businesses grow. That's what we're here for. That's what we love doing. So on that note, Michael, stay fantastic. You do all right. I'll give it my best shot, considering you tell me how good that is you are. We'll see you out there, team. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful break if anyone's having one of those. See how that one lands. And we'll see you next week.